How are you doing this morning, Joan?
Well, thank you. Nice to meet you.
It's nice meeting you too, because you are writing about something that really is forgotten. And because until this book came out, it's like it wasn't on our everyday tongue. And this is such an important piece of American and world history.
Why, thank you.
To do the research, what was that like? Because, I mean, what you place inside this book is information that a lot of us, we didn't know.
That was part of the motivation of writing it. What was amazing to me was that when I sat down to write, I knew I wanted to tell my personal journey of becoming a writer and what it was like to live in a community that was so effective in fighting racism.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know the term ableism. You know, we started a center for independent living, battered women. It was such a strong movement at that time. And, it's a hard one to replicate. There was a lot of openness. Don't forget, we were coming off the civil rights movement, the free speech movement. Now we were into the anti-war movement and the women's movement. And we just, as I said to someone in an event I did recently, we were so used to fighting, we just kept fighting, right? We've been.
But you know what? One of the things that you share in this is the opportunity to have a voice. And because we're in this age right now where a lot of people have pulled back and they're just letting life happen. But the book, Outside Voices, I mean, this really opens up the door to say, hey, look, we can still have a voice. And you're proving it inside these pages.
Yes, here's the thing. Outside Voices talks a lot about, how important it is to stand up for what's right, to not be afraid to get loud. I'm kind of amazed that this book is on the shelves. I'm waiting for my letter that says this book is banned. And my husband keeps saying, that's going to be your badge of honor, Joan, when your book is banned. Well, think about it. Think about what's in the book. It's not exactly temperate topics.
Right.
It was a very exciting time. And I just think that our culture, there's a couple of things going on. One, we've become so much more private, isolated, internalized by all of our devices. Mm-hmm. That's no news flash, right? You know that. Working remotely.
Oh.
And I think people need to just get back on the streets. We need to start mixing it up a lot more than we're mixing it up.
Yeah, becoming an activist and having faith and courage in your own words. And I love the idea that you brought your own personal writing into your voice, the human voice, because I ask more authors about that all the time. When you use your voice inside books or in public, is that your writing voice? And most of them will say, I guess so, I think so. But I mean, you're showing us how to become and what history gave us to become today.
Yeah, I think, a lot of the book is about, do I have a right to claim my voice? It's true for men and women, but I have to say it's more true for women. Someone was just saying to me that imposter syndrome is worse with women. Claiming who we are is hard. Just because of the culture not supporting women as much. Look at women in power, Well, I think that's starting to shift a little bit. Thank God we had Nancy Pelosi for so many years. She was such a perfect example of a strong woman with a strong voice, right? So it's a lot about claiming our voices and that we're allowed to do that.
There used to be a time when writers would get together at a Barnes and Noble and create their journey of moving forward and being seen in public. I don't see too many of those circles anymore, and I'm hoping that this serves as an open door for that, because especially women. I love it that my own daughter is very much an activist here in Charlotte, and she's transferring that energy to her own daughter. And man, when there is a public uprising, they're there. They're there to be heard and to be seen.
That's awesome. I think that's also true. I think that I used to run salons when I had a little bit more time and energy for that. But I would get together like filmmakers and artists and painters, and we would talk about the creative process. And the problem now with being a creative, so many, and creatives are often the ones that are kind of fomenting the change. Of course, policymakers as well, but creatives, right? Think about powerful movies you've seen. I just saw that movie Rustin about Martin Luther King's right-hand guy. Man, talk about an outside voice.
Yep.
He was the one that basically masterminded the March on Washington. Even Martin Luther King didn't have the confidence to do that. So, you need these people, especially now when we're in such a backlash and such a time of taking our rights away. It's such a frightening moment.
You bring up something about the collaboration, and that is very much so in Outside Voices, is the fact that the one that is standing up there at the microphone, usually it's not all about them. It's about the community that brought them to that microphone. And you bring up a very important part, that go as a group, don't go as one.
No artist. Basically, nothing gets done alone.
Yeah.
And, yes, the creator might have the original spark, but talk to any writer, filmmaker, and read the acknowledgments in any writer's book. Watch any award show. Everybody's like, this is not about me.
Yeah.
This is a total group effort.
But you know how we've become, Joan. We're that generation that once the credits start at the movie, we bolt out of the movie theater. I got to sit there and see who that grip was. I want to know who was doing what, and and how many names can we put up there in one showing.
You're awesome. You're awesome. We use that word in California. I hope it doesn't. I hope you like it.
Yeah, I'm from Montana, so yeah, awesome and cool. I'm still part of that generation that thinks everything is cool. Hey, that's cool, dude. Now, one of the things that you bring up in this book, and I chuckled like a kid for some reason, but when word came down that no men allowed, I didn't even know that story.
Yes. Well, if you watch the world, you see that there are movements, and then you see that there are extreme factions. And that's what happened in the women's movement. We were going along kind of happy-go-lucky, doing our thing, growing as artists, growing a community. And then we had the extremists. And the extremists were like, you see, we're doing such a great job. We don't need men. And that was a hard stop for me. I was like, wait a second. I had beloved friends. I loved my father. I mean, part of this book is a lot about my relationship with my father. If you've read the book, I was raised by a really strong person who guided me and mentored me. And I was not going to go down that path of no men allowed, but I wanted to report it to remind people that, there are factions and extremists, and they didn't last very long. That was the good thing.
I do find it inspiring that you included your father's story in this, and the reason why is because I don't even write that much about my own father, and I should be, because one of the things that we should be doing is sharing the story of those that were here before us, so that those after us will have a better picture. Because instead of going to some website and saying, "Yeah, okay, this is my family."
Yeah, for me, I think my father was a bit of a how do I say? Because he died young and I was young, he became kind of set in stone as this kind of all-powerful. My father did development in the Lower East Side of New York and named Soho.
Yeah.
So I knew his story had to be told. I mean, Soho was a collection of abandoned warehouses where people might not know it, but there were factories in Lower New York. And then they were abandoned. And he went in, and there was funding from the Rockefeller Foundation, and they renovated all of these old warehouses. And he came up with the name Soho. And I thought, well, his story needs to be told too. And he was a great influence on me. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, and I didn't know that about Soho. I mean, because I've been to Soho. We've walked the streets. It's amazing. Once again, the history before we are in our present place of now. Now, for you to put this book together, though, I mean, that means you have released a lot of energy for those of us that are picking it up on the page. What have you replaced that energy with inside your heart?
Oh, what a sweet question. Well, I don't know if you can relate to this feeling, but when you have a particular ambition, and my ambition was to write books,
yeah,
I feel a huge relief because I knew I had to tell this story while I was writing my 6 other books. So, it took many years to get the confidence to go out into the world with my own personal story. I'm still in the throes of the initial launch. And so I've been on an emotional roller coaster, feeling very vulnerable, that I put all these very personal things out there. But in general, I feel a huge sense of relief. Oh, I finally did it. I told my story.
Wow.
And to have it be received and have people be enthusiastic about it, well, that's every writer's dream.
Wow. Well, here's the next challenge. It's time for you to do a podcast and let people hear your voice, the pitch, the volume, the tone, the drive, the ambition.
How lovely. I'll pursue that.
Oh my God, Joan, it's amazing when you get when people start picking up on your vocals and things, and it basically wraps around the world. It's a completely different world. That writer inside of you is going, oh my God, this is a newer way to share the stories.
Yeah, that I have someone who's advocating for me to do a writer's hour. Ooh. So I could start with a podcast for writers. But thank you. That's a great compliment. I appreciate that.
When did you discover as a child that you were that writer? Mine came in the 2nd grade with my teacher, Mrs. Keefe. Where did it start happening with you?
I'm so glad you said that. I think writers are born.
Yep.
And you're a writer at a very young age. I was sitting at my desk writing book reports when I was like 9 years old. My parents would come in, so industrious. I just found that way of expression is, what was in my mind onto the page, communicating it to people was so fun. And so, but I never had any confidence.
Right.
And that's why this time was so pivotal for me, because this is where I gained my confidence.
See, that's every bit the reason why I created the podcast, View from the Writing Instrument, because there are so many great stories hidden underneath people's beds right now or up in the attic. And those stories are going to sit there until somebody finds them, and then they're going to throw them away. They need to get them out. They need to gain that confidence and set it free.
Yeah, it's interesting. I coach writers, and as I say in my presentations, it's not for lack of talent that so many writers are not published, and they have great stories and great talent. It's the confidence.
Yep.
And that's why my book for writers, not to plug my other book, but I'll just say it 2 seconds. It's called How to Be a Winning Writer. Ooh. The 4 C's of Successful Authors: craft, commitment, community, and confidence. And that was an Amazon bestseller, #1 bestseller. And the reason is because I talk about things that a lot of writing coaches don't talk about. A lot of writing coaches say, get it on the page. Yep. Here's how you do it. Do this, do that. But the confidence issue is what slows people down incredibly.
Wow. I do a thing called defragging, and when to help build up the confidence, I ask the questions, I question my answers, and then I ask more questions, because the goal is, it's like, okay, you're not going to let this just sit here, so I'm going to ask you the question, why? Give me a good why. And so we need more people like yourself, Joan, to be those leaders as well as teachers.
Yeah, it's important, because I think teachers tend to get wrapped up into their own work. And so I felt like that book was an act of generosity. That's why I say I was thinking about outside voices while I was writing 6 other books.
See, I love that, only because I believe that creativity is all the time. So I laugh because I can relate with it. Because I've been there.
Right. I tell writers when they're working on a project, inevitably something's going to come up that's going to catch your attention. Now, if you're a neophyte, beginning amateur writer, you let that other thing take your attention. Yeah. How many writers do I meet that say, oh, I'm working on 5 projects? No, don't work on 5 projects. Take notes for the 4 projects and work on 1 project.
Did you have fun putting the book together, though? I mean, because you have to have fun somewhere along the way.
I had fun. What was really fun is that I reconnected with people that I hadn't seen in quite some time. And kind of, reliving that time that was such a pivotal time for so many of us that was the funnest part.
It can still happen again, can it not?
I actually am concerned that what is on our plates and what is on the social agenda right now, climate change, authoritarianism, losing our democracy. Mm-hmm. In fact, I worry that women's issues are going to be greatly sidelined under these huge global issues that we're facing right now, like climate change, like the rise of authoritarianism, and like women's bodies and women's reproductive health.
Boy, you, man, it's almost like you were reading my journals, because it's like I challenged myself. It's like, wow, you'll say all this stuff in your journals, but you're not saying it in public. And it's things like with this book, Outside Voices, where it's like, okay, if I'm going to say it on a page, I need to say it in public. I've got to get that confidence.
Absolutely. And as the truth is, you will be vetted by the public. Mm-hmm. So here's what to help give you some confidence. You write it, you bring it out to the public. If the public appreciates it, then you're on the right page. Right. I mean, some people are not on the right page. So how else will you know you're on the right page? You put it out there. You write articles. You send out your manuscripts.
That's it.
And that's what we call vetting, right? When editors and publishers look at your work, you'll know if you're on the right page.
Oh, what a great way to have a continuation of this story at a different time. Oh, my God. I loved sharing a conversation with you today.
Thank you so much.
Where can people go to find out more about you and all of your books? Because I want people to be in love with the idea of writing.
My website is really up to date and has all the information on all my books. It's just joangelfand.com.
Excellent. You be brilliant today, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.